All right, so if you've taken a foreign language before, or if you are very familiar with grammar in general, this section might be a little redundant for you. Um, you should at least take a look at it, try some of the activities, make sure you're familiar with it, because a lot of students come in thinking they know a lot about subjects and verbs, and then when I start asking them to identify them, we find out that that's not really the case. So subjects and verbs are essential in language learning because all languages are going to have subjects and verbs, and you will have to use them all the time. So in English, every sentence has a subject and a verb. A subject can be a couple of different things. They can be a person or thing that does something. It can also be the person or thing that is being described. A verb is an action or a linking word. All French sentences also have a subject and a verb, just like English. This should come as no surprise because most sentences really do not make sense without a subject and a verb. So I would like you to pause for a sec and give 3 examples of what you think would be described as action verbs. So I've put some on here. You can write these down or you can keep your own as long as they are some kind of action verb. And I have written run, jump, and dance. The best way to decide if something is an action verb is to ask yourself, can I, and then say the verb. And if the answer is yes, then it is an action verb. So for instance, can I run? Well, no, because I'm really bad at running. But is it possible? Yes. Can I jump? Yes. Can I dance? Yes. Can I eat? Yes. Can I draw? Yes. All of these things would be examples of action verbs. Now, linking verbs are a little bit more difficult. I want you again to pause and try to give me some examples of linking verbs and see what you come up with. So some of the ones that I've given are is, are, and were. So they're words that connect two different ideas. So typically it connects a subject with some kind of describing word, right? So if we think about it that way, let's try some examples. I want you, again, to pause, and I want you to try to circle the subject in these sentences and then underline the verb. All right, so we're going to take a look at these now that you have hopefully done this yourself. I'm going to use the pen. There we go. Let's take a look at the first one. I like cheese. So it's typically easier to find the verb first and then to look for the subject. So in this case, our verb is going to be the word like, and you can ask yourself, can I like? Yes, you can. And then once you do that, once you know what the verb is, you can ask yourself, who does that or what does that? So in this case, who likes cheese? I like cheese. And I do like cheese very much. Why that example exists. So you would circle the I, because that's going to be your subject in the sentence. We look at our next one. The dog jumped over the fence. So what's the action going on here? The answer to that is jumped, right? Can I jump? Yes. And then you ask yourself, who or what jumped over the fence? The dog. Now in this case, typically your subject's just going to be one word, so I would just focus on the main part of that, which is dog, as opposed to the, because the is going to be an article. And the sentence would still make sense if you took out the. If you take dog out, then you just have the sentence, the jumped over the fence. That doesn't make sense anymore. So let's look at number 3. Steve is funny. Now this one's a little bit tougher, right? Because it's not an action verb. So it's a little bit harder to pick it out right away, but there's 2 ideas here, right? One idea is the person we're talking about, in this case, Steve. The other idea is describing Steve, which is funny, right? So what is our linking word between Steve and funny? The answer is, which is our verb. And then we ask ourselves, who or what is funny? Steve is funny. So let's look at number 4. She draws well. Our action here is going to be draws. Can I draw? Yes. Who draws well? She draws well. Number 5. Tourists visit Paris frequently. So our action here is going to be the action visit. All right, can I visit? Yes. And then we ask ourselves, who or what visits Paris frequently? The answer is tourists. Now, for some of you, this may be pretty easy, and if that's the case, that is fantastic. I'm very excited. If it's not the case, then you just want to make sure you're practicing this a lot so that you can start picking out those verbs and those subjects. Number 6, we dance around the house. What's our action? Dance. Can I dance? Yes. Who or what dances around the house? We do. Yay. And our last one, you are short. Again, linking verbs are harder to pick out right away, but we can pick out that we're talking about you and we're talking about short, and our connecting word between you and short is are. And then we ask ourselves who, I know you have to change it to make it make sense. Who is short? Who are short? You are short. That's our subject. So if you got all of these right and you totally understand this and you think this is super easy, awesome. You can move on to the next topic. But if you have some trouble with this or you're not very familiar with this idea, then I want you to make sure you're doing lots and lots of practice with this, because this is a very, very fundamental skill that you will need to master before we can go on.